The Houston Texans made a ton of franchise-altering moves this offseason, but none bigger than who they selected with the second pick in the 2023 NFL Draft in CJ Stroud. Now, the quarterback position for the Texans has become a pretty fascinating situation in the past few years. It looked like they found their best quarterback in franchise history in Deshaun Watson, who threw for 85 touchdowns from 2018 to 2020, earning 3 Pro Bowl honors in a row. But some off-the-field issues that were made very apparent that we've all seen from the past couple of years practically forced Watson out of Houston and put the Texans organization in a very difficult spot. Having to trade away the most talented quarterback in your franchise's history in his prime isn't a decision any team wants to make, but unfortunately for the Texans, the nightmare became a reality after the 2020 NFL season. And amidst all of the offseason problems, Watson would sit out the entire 2021 NFL season while the NFL and legal system came to a conclusion on Watson's numerous lawsuits. I still think to this day he technically could have played, but his feelings of ill will towards the team, combined with everything he was dealing with off the field, the Texans and Watson agreed it was just best for him to take the year off. But in the offseason, which is last year's offseason, the Texans would unload Watson to the Cleveland Browns for a pretty penny, which included 3 first-round picks, a third-round pick, and 2 fourth-round picks. A fantastic haul for a player who, for one, wanted out from the team, 2, had a lot of baggage with all the lawsuits and criminal investigations he had, and 3, he hadn't really played a real game in over a year. So this past season for the Texans was really the beginning of a new era. They officially had clearance on their future and which direction they were going to go in as a team, and it was clear from even before the season started that this team was in desperate need for a lot of talent on both sides of the ball. I mean, even when they had prime Deshaun Watson playing at the peak of his powers in 2020, they still only won 4 games. So you remove him among other players on the team, and you could just tell that the talent level was not there to compete. Texans would go 3-13-1 this past year and honestly looked like the worst team in the league. It took a garbage time, practically a Hail Mary touchdown to beat the Indianapolis Colts and cost themselves the #1 pick in the draft. Instead, the Chicago Bears got the top pick, resulting in the Texans falling to #2. And for a while leading up to the draft, the Texans were fairly optimistic that the Bears were going to take the best defender on the board, giving them the choice at the top quarterback. But as the draft got closer, it became clear that the Bears were auctioning off the pick. They were not going to use that selection, and that's when things became a bit problematic for the Texans. There were some rumors at the time that Houston was interested in potentially trading up 1 spot with the Bears to secure the top pick, but nothing ever really materialized. Instead, the Bears would trade with the Carolina Panthers, which sent the top quarterback in the draft, according to most experts, Bryce Young, to Carolina. And it was reported throughout the process by numerous sources that Bryce Young was who the Texans hoped they could have drafted. So I do think that garbage time touchdown in Week 18 did cost them what they really wanted, but by no means does that mean they did not like CJ Stroud. I still think they had a pretty high opinion on him, and that's who they ended up selecting to be their quarterback of the future. And coming out of Ohio State, I was decently high on Stroud. I think OSU quarterbacks get a bad rep due to not a ton of success that program has had in developing and producing quarterbacks. In my opinion on why that is, it's a combination of things. The conference there, and there's not a lot of teams that have comparable talent, so more than half of their schedule is essentially cupcakes, so that allows for these quarterbacks to put up pretty good numbers week in and week out. And then on top of having the talent advantage in practically every game, they also have been turning out the most wide receivers out of any program in recent years. I mean, just 2 years ago, Stroud was throwing to 4 first-round picks at wide receiver: Chris Olave, Garrett Wilson, Jackson Smith-Njigba, and soon to be Marvin Harrison. And then lastly, Ryan Day's system is also fairly easy to run, so these Ohio State quarterbacks have a hard time picking up a real offense early on in the NFL. But there's no denying CJ Stroud's talent and what he was able to do for 2 years there. He's got a good arm, great accuracy and timing. Where he has some criticism was regarding his play under pressure and also being able to play off script and play make, which is why I think his best game of his career was the playoff game against Georgia last year, where he absolutely was phenomenal. He didn't have the talent advantage in that game. Harrison got knocked out in the middle of the game, and Stroud was using his legs to extend plays and really showed his ceiling on New Year's Eve. He was literally doing what everybody was questioning he had the ability to do, and because of that, I think that game really helped his stock and propelled him into being a top 3 pick. But now it's about the Texans coaching staff being able to pull the most out of him and getting him to do that consistently. And so far in Texans minicamp, the reviews on Stroud have been pretty positive. Like every team and their rookies, there's been a lot of footage released of him. He's also the most talked about player in the media room, and new head coach D'Amico Ryans has said a lot about what he's liked about Stroud so far and his development early in camp. He said the best best thing I've seen about CJ with his improvement and growth is he doesn't make the same mistake twice. He went on to say, for me with the quarterback, it's all about confidence. We want him to rip it. If you see it, go through your progression. If you see it, make it happen. We understand every ball is not going to be perfect. You're not going to protect it all the time. I never want our quarterback playing afraid to make a mistake. I want everybody playing to their maximum potential and attacking everything that we do. So going back to what I said earlier about the Texans getting the most they can out of him, this is Ryan's doing exactly that. Preaching to Stroud to be aggressive, trust his eyes, trust his arm, and giving him all the confidence in the world to go out there and produce. And for a young quarterback like Stroud who's only 21 years old, hearing that stuff from your head coach really does help. And even one of the Texans veterans, Robert Woods, had positive things to say about CJ. He said, I would say Stroud, a good leader, already coming in, vocal, speaking up in meetings, being able to sit with him at times in the quarterback meetings and hearing him ask some great questions, trying to pick apart the offense and grasp it pretty early, out on the field, making some strong throws, good reads, good decisions. That's a really good thing to start with a rookie quarterback coming in. And that's a perfect segue to talk about the Texans supporting cast, which is very important to a young quarterback's success. And contrary to a lot of people, I actually really like what Houston has done to build around him. The offensive line is pretty damn good. I think it has a chance to be a top 10 unit this year. You have one of the best tackle duos in the league with Laramie Tunsil at left tackle and then Titus Howard at right tackle. They drafted Kenyon Green in the first round of last year's draft. He didn't play a ton last year. He was up and down as a rookie, but I expect him to get some development from this new Texans coaching staff this year and take a step up in year number 2. They traded for Shaq Mason from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. He's known as one of the best right guards in football. And then in this year's draft, in the second round, they drafted Juice Scruggs out of Penn State. So you have 3 very solid veterans in Howard, Mason, and Tunsil. And then you have 2 young players with a lot of upside in Green and Scruggs. So the offensive line is going to be really, really good. And for CJ Stroud, who's not super mobile, he doesn't have a ton of athleticism like, a Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson. So building a wall up front for him, I think is going to be a huge help for him early in his career. As far as skill position players go, the Texans front office completely revamped them this offseason. They signed Devin Singletary in free agency, the former Buffalo Bill. He's proven to be a more than capable back in the league. They also signed longtime veteran Mike Boone from the Denver Broncos. So 2 new veterans to back up one of the best rookie running backs from a season ago in Dameon Pierce, who honestly really impressed me last year. They signed Dalton Schultz to a 1-year deal. I personally think he's a top 10 tight end in football. And for a rookie quarterback who wants a security blanket to rely on, I think Schultz can be that this season. The wide receiver core, though, is what I'm really excited to watch this year. There's a lot of young guys with a ton of potential, starting with John Mechie III, who didn't play at all as a rookie as he recovered from cancer. He should be back fully healthy this year and able to play. They also drafted Tank Dell, the speedster, out of Houston in the 3rd round of this past year's draft. They also took a big body wide receiver in the 6th round and Xavier Hutchinson out of Iowa State. They signed 2 veterans to help out the young wide receiver room with Robert Woods and Noah Brown. And Nico Collins is still there entering year number 3. He's shown flashes of being a good player as well. But there's some legit players on this offense. The Texans organization did a really good job the last 2 years when they realized a rookie quarterback would be in the team's future to make sure to invest a lot of assets on offense, and this is where it's gotten them. The last key piece to this offense and Stroud's success is new offensive coordinator Bobby Slowick. He comes from the 49ers. He's been a part of that staff for 6 years. I'm sure he learned a lot from Kyle Shanahan and the plethora of coaches that have come from San Fran. So I think Slowick is going to do a good job. He's bringing that same type of West Coast system over to Houston. That's the perfect offense for Stroud. A timing and rhythm-based system that will rely on the running game, which is going to be solid due to the fantastic O-line and Dameon Pierce, which then will allow CJ Stroud to run some play action and just make his life a whole lot easier. So all in all, I believe Texan fans should feel pretty good about the supporting cast the team has put around CJ Stroud. I know right now the coaching staff is saying Mills and Stroud are in a quarterback battle, but I'm fairly confident CJ will be starting week 1 and be ready to go to have a solid rookie season. But let me know what you think about CJ Stroud and how many touchdowns you think he's going to throw for in 2023. Also, let me know how many games you think the Texans will win next year and if you think they're going to be competitive throughout the season. Subscribe to the channel if you are new. Drop a like on the video if you did enjoy it. And as always, thank you so much for watching the video, and I will catch you guys in my next one.